we evolve, because it's what we can do. It's what we should do. Today, tomorrow, forever.
Have you ever wanted to show up and be your best and something got in the way? Think about it. Presentation, a test, you stayed up all night preparing for it. You're probably over-prepared for it. And then the next day, it's like the answers aren't coming to you. Like you can't access all of the knowledge you have and the learning you've done. Have you ever wanted to meet someone new? Maybe they're interesting to you. Maybe you're attracted to them. And after you get past the first hello, it's like you fumble your words, like you can't quite be you. You walk away from that experience feeling small, maybe. Like you couldn't quite access your wit and your humor, the characteristics that people know and love about you. Or those big games, those big performances. There's so much hype and excitement around the event. But then the event starts, and it's like you're just a little bit off. Like the game is moving faster than your skill set allows you. Like you can't quite access all of the training that you've done. I think this is a shared part of the human experience. I think we all get in the way of ourselves far too often, myself included. The thing is, though, is that many of us want to go for it in life. And so if that's the case, we've signed up for things to be difficult and challenging. And what I know is inherent in that process is stress and pressure. There's uncertainty. We have to take some risks. And all of that can be anxiety-provoking for most people. It can feel scary. And a little anxiety and fear, that's okay. That's our brain doing exactly what it's designed to do, to keep us safe. It's helped our species survive, to plan and worry for what could go wrong in the future. But too much anxiety and too much fear, that gets in the way of us pursuing our best. It gets in the way of us going for it in life. So if we want to go for it in life, we have to learn to trust ourselves to be good enough. And if I decode what that statement means, to trust yourself to be good enough, first you have to know who you are as a human being. I didn't know who I was when I was playing volleyball. I had never thought of that concept outside of I'm a good athlete or I'm a great volleyball player. And we all do this. We all have a tendency to wrap up or enmesh our identities in the things that we do and the roles that we play rather than who we are as a human being and what we stand for as a human being. And the trap behind that door is that when we get tested, if we don't know who we are, it's hard to show up and be the best version of ourselves. So if we can put language to the thoughts and the words and the actions that represent who you are at your best, then that gives us a reference point to come back to when we're not at our best, when things are a little bit off for ourselves. And with that clarity comes a sense of groundedness, comes a sense of conviction to be your best self when we're tested. And we get tested every single day. This is about how we show up every single day. I've done the work now, so I know that what I stand for is living with a sense of curiosity. And that gets tested, for example, when I'm driving and someone cuts me off and almost runs me into another lane and I feel threatened. It's really hard to be curious in those types of moments. But I know when I'm able to guide myself back to a thought around curiosity, like I wonder what it was like for that person living life today before now. When I do that, I'm able to respond as a better version of myself. I'm able to get a rep at being a better version of myself in that moment. So the question for you is, who are you? What are the thoughts and the words and the phrases that guide you to be your best when you're tested? And then the question is, can you get more reps at being the best version of yourself today? And then trust. Trust is a skill. Like any other skill that you have, that you possess, if you practice, you can improve it. And the way to practice or train trust would be to get uncomfortable on purpose more often so that you can learn to be comfortable in that space. This is how this came to life for me. I learned this lesson on the USA team. It was after the London Olympics, and there were about 28 of us sitting in a room in a semicircle. Some of the girls on the team had been there for 2 weeks, fresh off the boat. Some had been to as many as 5 Olympic Games. Our coaches were sitting behind us, and our performance psychologist was at the front of the room. He asked a very simple question. He said, would anyone like to come to the front of the room to test to see how their mind works under pressure? Imagine that. Imagine if I asked for a volunteer in this audience right now to come stand on stage with me with the bright lights and the camera and test to see how your mind works under pressure. What if I asked you to come up here on stage with me right now to test your mind to see what happens under pressure? What's happened is your powerful mind has already imagined yourself up here, so your body has switched on in some sort of way. And whether you're aware of it or not, your thoughts have already gone to, oh my God. And you're thinking about all of the things that could go wrong. If I test your mind to see how it works under pressure, will it work? And so this is our brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. You've interpreted a threat. I know I'm intimidating. I'm 5'4". You've interpreted a threat, right? And so your body has switched on even more. So if you pay attention, your heart rate has increased right now. It's maybe feels like it's pounding in your chest with the anticipation of having to come up here. If I asked you to actually stand and walk to the stage, it would feel like your legs are a little bit heavier than they normally are. If you pay attention, there might be some butterflies in your stomach. That's not nervousness. That's blood leaving your stomach as it goes to your extremities, because the thought of being up here is so threatening that it's kicked on your fight or flight response. Again, this is a little bit of anxiety, a little bit fear. It's your body doing exactly what it's designed to do, but this is the exact moment that I'm talking about where we feel most uncomfortable that causes us to hesitate and go for it. The biggest threat that we usually face on a day-to-day basis is the thought that what someone thinks of us could be bad. It's fear of judgment from others. And it's for that same reason, in a room of 28 Olympians and Olympic hopefuls, just one person raised her hand to see how her mind would get tested under pressure. Do you want to come up and do it? I'm just kidding. You're off the hook. I'm not going to make you do it. But your heart rate's up, isn't it? Yeah, I know. So one person, right? One person went up there, and she was an absolute mess, right? Her legs were shaking, and her voice was cracking. She could barely get through the activity, and it was awesome. It was such a beautiful moment because she earned the right to do something that the rest of us didn't earn when we sat on our butts and we didn't go for it. She earned the right to get uncomfortable and to grow. And from that, she built capacity for herself to trust to do difficult things in the future. And that's the essence of it. That's it right there. You can train trust. You can do this more often. The next time you have a brilliant idea and you want to raise your hand and share it, instead of the internal civil war that takes place, the should I, shouldn't I, just go for it. The next time the teacher or someone says, hey, who wants to go first? Throw your hand up. Go for it. When you're standing in line at your favorite coffee shop, find a perfect stranger to compliment. Because it's those moments that we purposely get uncomfortable that we train trust. And that's what this is all about. And I want to end by talking about this idea of how we're defining what good enough means. Because I think socially, we've conceptualized it as the pursuit of perfection, or incessantly working towards accomplishments, or being more than, or being better than others. And there's a cost to all that. And the cost is internally, it's just exhausting to our resources. But the pursuit of perfection, what happens is we avoid mistakes. In pursuing accomplishments, we tend to avoid innovating. We avoid experimenting. We avoid failure. And that stuff, that's the good stuff. That's at the heart of pursuing your best self. So if we want to get after it, maybe we need to think about how we're framing what good enough means. And I'm not by any means saying that you shouldn't work hard. That's not how it works. If you want to get after it in life, if you want to be a doctor, an engineer, it doesn't matter. You have to work hard. You have to study. You have to know your stuff. But what I do want to highlight is the difference between having so much passion for something that it drives you towards mastery versus this all too common striving and straining to somehow prove our worth based on the standards or expectations that others have set for us, others being your peers, society, or the world. So in pursuit of your best, trusting yourself to be good enough is a great compass to have. And to trust yourself to be good enough, know who you are so you can be that more often. Purposefully get uncomfortable, lean into it so you can build your capacity to trust yourself. And set your own standard for what good is. Because at the end of the day, what is better than your best? Thank you.